Great. So my time is 10. For some of you it's 8, and for some of you it's 9, and maybe it's something else for someone else. We are most of us here today are from Finland. Any Advisor is a Finnish company, but we have a lot of people from Europe as well. So welcome to everyone, and thank you for taking the time to the webinar. We have a very important and interesting subject today, and inspirational speakers. I will quickly go through the agenda and say a few words, welcoming words, but it's something very quick, and I won't take too much of your time, and we will let the main speakers today speak most of the time. We have some opportunities today to ask questions, so feel free to do so. And you can either use the chat or the Q&A box, and I will help the speakers to see your questions, and we can have good discussions. And yeah, good. I will quickly go through the agenda today. So like I said, I will briefly tell you about Any Advisor and say a few words. And then we will go to the actual topics today. So we have first Judith talking about how to help students in crisis. And then we have Karin and Jolanda about how to work together to help them. And I've seen both of the presentations, and I'm very excited to be hearing them, because they are very concrete and they go to a deep level as well, but I'm sure you will enjoy them. And I'm very, very thankful for all the speakers today and everyone who's participating the webinar, so that we can be here today for the important topic. So good. Like I said, you can join the discussion through the messages, the chat box, and the Q&A tools. And if you have to leave early, we will send the recording to everyone, so no worries about that. Good. So my name is Miira Peltomaa, and I'm the head of marketing and communications at Any Advisor. And basically, what we do at Any is that we have noted that in a general note, the student needs are increasing steadily at the same time as the resources at schools and education are they're not increasing. So this creates some tension, meaning that some students don't get the help that they need. And some studies have found that it can lead to dropouts, and the percentage of the dropouts, it depends on whether it's a secondary or higher education and the place where the students are located. And our mission is to prevent dropouts. And basically how we do it and what Any Advisor does is that the chatbot, it proactively reaches out to students and asks if they need any help and how they could help them, so that we can direct them to the support that they need. It can be a study counselor or a student advisor, or the school psychologist or their own teacher, depending on their support need. So like I said, our mission is to prevent dropouts, and we've done an impact study on this subject. And we have found that we can prevent the dropouts as much as 5 to 25% per the use of Any. So of course, aside from preventing dropouts, we want to help the students and promote their well-being and contribute to their help, and also the educators and their workload. But if you're interested in that, you can always go to our website and learn more or contact us. But yes, to go to the main topic, I would like to welcome Judith, our first speaker today. And Judith, if you can take over the screen and start presenting.
Yeah, give me a second. Okay. Okay, can you all see my front page of the presentation?
Let's see. I can see it now.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much, Mira. It's a pleasure to be here and to be invited this morning, and it's a pleasure to talk to all of you. My name is Judith. I'm the director of the International Office and Student Life team at the Hertie School in Berlin, Germany. And I've been in my role, or in that role as student service, student affairs, international office staff member for 15 years, and I really love my job. What I think is especially interesting about our job is whatever is going on in the world, globally, good and bad, we kind of feel it first on campuses, because we have a lot to do with international students. And as interesting and great it is, it's also a challenge. A challenge we have to adapt to all the time. So I'm going to give a presentation about how the past 1.5 years were for us at the Hertie School. Parts of my presentation are very specific for the Hertie School, for Berlin, and also for Germany. And you will see why. I hope all of you get something out of it. Probably most things are not like they are in your country, but maybe there are similarities and some inspiration too. I'm very curious to hear your questions too, and also remarks, opinions, or your ideas as well. I think what makes our job so beautiful is the exchange among very friendly colleagues internationally. Okay, let me see, why is it not changing? Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. First I want to talk about the circumstances we found starting, I would say 5 years ago. There were many influential factors that led to the division within our community at the Hertie School. Some of them had to do with students, some had to do with the school's history or the history of Germany, and some were in global influential factors. So I identified what really harmed or influenced our community in the past years. And I think it kind of started with COVID, and I think many institutions can say the same. We had a lot of mental health issues with students post-COVID and during COVID. And you probably all know the reasons: being in isolation, having lost loved ones. There were many factors, and we really had to get a grip on how we can help students and how can we help them, besides their trauma they went through, to succeed in their studies. COVID, in our opinion, also brought to light a lack of personal involvement in the school community and the school. Before COVID, we had a very vibrant community, a lot of active clubs, initiatives, and a lot of involvement among students. This was almost gone after COVID, but we saw a higher involvement on social media, be it Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok, etc. So this was really difficult to navigate for us. Then the war in the Ukraine happened, which also shook us to the core. We had a lot of Ukrainian students that needed help, but also it created a feeling of insecurity and what's happening here in Europe. Another influential factor was the war in the Middle East, starting in October 23. And I will come to that in more detail, because this was also the reason why a lot of things on our campus happened. This is accompanied by our Hertie history and German history. And I will speak about that on my next slide. The history of Hertie and the specific circumstances that are here on in Germany led to a lot of culture shock among our students because they were not so familiar with German laws on hate speech, etc. And a lot of our international students were kind of in disbelief and really didn't like what the circumstances were. This led to a very divided community at Hertie, which we really wanted to help mend. And we hope we succeeded, and we will come to that towards the end. This divided community also caused a lack of safe space for a lot of students. And I think living in a very polarized world and this polarization really converge to campus as well. And it's not, I think this lack of safe space, whenever you have a different opinion or a different approach to things, this is really something that is increasingly a problem on campuses. Whoops. Really quickly about the Hertie School and Hertie history. I don't know how many of you know Hertie as the name of a department store in Germany and in Europe. It used to be the biggest department store chain in Germany, and it was founded by Hermann Tietz, that's why Hertie, who was a Jewish German merchant. And during the 1930s, Hermann Tietz was a victim of the anti-Semitic policies in Germany, and his company was Aronized. I don't know if all of you know what Aronized means. It means property, money, etc. was taken away from Jewish businessmen or people in general. This is a very simplified explanation now. I could probably talk for 2 hours about this, so please bear with me. He was stripped from his property, his money, etc. And a German, Georg Karg, was replaced as head of the department store. So later, as a meaning of apologetic or I'm missing the word now, sorry, but the non-Jew Georg Karg later founded the charitable Hertie Foundation, which is now the funding basis for the Hertie School. So if you can say, like, a lot of our students have a built-in scholarship deriving from Jewish money. So this is important to kind of understand when we talk about the Gaza conflict here in Germany, in Berlin, and at the Hertie School. I was alluding to the state of mental health for students, especially post-COVID, and I kind of identified 3 levels that influence mental health for our students. Some of them are very personal. We have students with mental health predispositions, depression, culture shock, homesickness, relationship problems, drugs, parental pressure, anxiety, and adjustment disorders. I think all of those factors are quite typical, unfortunately, for students, especially on international campuses. But there are also some that are very specific to Berlin, because we are looking at a very intense housing market here in Berlin. German bureaucracy can be a pain and puts a lot of pressure on our students. No feeling of belonging in this rather big city. Language barrier, anonymity, and loneliness, and of course also the weather and the darkness, especially for our Latin American students. This is the biggest change and begin and end of October, when the clock shifts, when it's getting dark and the weather is not as pleasant anymore. I can really see it with our students, how their mood is dropping, and their it's a difficult time for them. Then we have a few aspects that are specific to the Hertie school. We have a lot of students, since we are a private institution, which is also kind of unusual in Germany, since, as most universities are non-fee seeking universities, but we charge tuition. So we have a lot of students with financial difficulties, a lot of competition among students and peer pressure. There are too many options. As we are a rather small university, there are a lot of options, a lot of flexibility for our students. Social media, a dominance of certain groups, expectations versus reality, and stress. So these are things we are looking at specifically at Hertie. In February, almost exactly 1 year ago, something happened in Berlin as a consequence of the Gaza conflict. We had a Jewish student beaten up at the Free University in Berlin, and which set off a big role of protests and emotions, etc., which also didn't halt for the Hertie school. What we have to keep in mind is that due to our history, our historic responsibility, we have certain laws in Germany called the anti-Semitism laws, which are the strictest in the world. And these ban, for example, Holocaust denial and Nazi symbols, hate speech, and is not permitted, especially for protection of Jewish institutions, Jewish life, Jewish people. So if you are interested in this anti-Semitism laws in Germany, it's very interesting, but this is something you have to keep in mind, especially if you decide to study in Germany. This is something you should be aware of, and you have to comply with. Otherwise, it could get very difficult and have consequences. And I think that's why a lot of also international politicians just recently refer to Germany not allowing free speech, which is not entirely true. There's just a but to it. So what happened on and off campus in Berlin and at the Hertie school? We had different demonstrations pro-Israel, pro-Palestinian. We had demonstrations to be aware of our historic responsibility and stand with the country of Israel. So there was a lot of emotions, very polarizing, which really divided our community, especially blaming us as the Hertie school for standing too much with Israel. But like I explained, we also have a very specific situation as a institution deriving from Jewish money, being in Berlin and being in Germany. What added to the level of complexity at the Hertie school was also the impact of social media. And this is more general too. On the one hand, the social media environment is actually limitless and boundless. It's offering an open platform where any topic is acceptable. You can access it anytime, anywhere, and you can just say what you like, no matter the consequences, most of the time. But at the same time, there are certain limits to social media versus real life. So but on social media, it's simplified to just set boundaries or to discontinue the conversation by unfollowing, blocking, ghosting, or hating. But this eliminates the necessity for a direct conversation like we used to. If we have a conflict or problem, I usually talk to the other person, look that person in the eye, and usually we have some kind of relationship, even though we might not agree on things or find a solution. At least we engaged in a conversation, which is almost eliminated by social media. Like I said, it limits the opportunity to really develop conflict resolution skills, which are very important these days. Also, what we see in general and what we also saw at Hertie is a decline in social skills. The reduced practice of having this difficult conversation or encounter to really express hurt or disappointment, and which is both very important to build self-esteem and emotional resilience. I just put that in there because while I was researching last year, I found this study, which is very interesting. It doesn't have anything immediately to do with our situation, but I encourage you to have a look. It's a study on social media's impact on young girls or women that showed that even a 1 week break from social media increased their self-esteem dramatically. So it's suggesting a connection between social media and improved self-esteem. So if you want to have a look, the link is below. Okay, so this is a lot. There was so much going on exactly 1 year ago. It almost feels outdated to talk about it because this world is spinning so fast and new problems and challenges are coming in every day. But I will talk about of what we did last year. So we actually had our students coming to us for help, asking us, hey, it was our student reps and our peer advisors who said, hey, we need to do something. This is getting out of hand on WhatsApp, on social media. Students are afraid to come to campus. We had students dropping out and wanting to leave Berlin and Germany. So we really needed to do something. So this is what we did. So first of all, we thought it's very important to have personal conversations again. So we try to engage or have extensive and regular meetings with our student representations and our peer advisors and any other students who wanted to really hear what is the problem, what can we do about it together. So this was the first piece of the puzzle. We needed to also educate our international students more about the anti-Semitism laws in Germany. And also, I will not go into that. There was also an attempt back then 1 year ago to change the Berlin University law, but this is taking it a little bit too far, but this was also a problem. But students needed to know what is the legal environment I'm studying here and what can I do and what can't I do. We needed to educate our students about the clear complaints procedure through our Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Office. And we needed to stress the importance of our very own code of conduct. Just to give you an example, our key values are academic integrity, academic freedom, transparency, sustainability, mutual respect, diversity and inclusion for the stewardship of the public good. And we needed to help our students to improve their social skills. This was one of my main goals and challenges. And we needed to bring students together and support their ideas and try to tell them about the importance of being kind to each other. So we met our student reps and peer advisors on a weekly basis. what was difficult back then, that even those were of different opinion and very divided, it was actually, I remember our very first meeting, it was actually really difficult to find commonalities between student reps and peer advisors, and to actually have a meaningful conversation back then. We tried to open all communication channels on all hierarchy levels. So our student reps also met with our president, our dean, etc. So we really had a very intense exchange. We gave financial and organizational support for events on the Gaza conflict within legal restrictions, saying that is because students were very unhappy with the school, that we had too many events that were only one-sided, not balanced panels, too pro-Israel, alien, etc. So we supported to also hear other voices, and yeah, whatever the students thought was important to them. We increased the psychological support with internal counselors and psychologists. We had a lot of events and workshops, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And I think the most important thing was, and this was also my biggest learning, because I think up to that point, I always thought, I'm young, I'm still one of them, but I wasn't. I really, I had to learn, I'm getting old, I have different opinions and different things in my life. So we really needed to listen. And I think this was the most important thing in that situation. So my department did a event series, very close to the initial event in October, and continuing the Gaza conflict. We did an event called How to Talk About It, towards a respectful discourse about the current conflict in the Middle East, bringing together students to have a meaningful conversation about the situation instead of just posting things and threatening other students, etc. We then also developed and designed a workshop, a mandatory workshop, which we implemented in the Welcome Week, which was called Hertie Love, Community, Culture, and Values. Each first-year student had to attend, and it was mainly about, it was a mixture of intercultural training, how to have conversations about our values, and how to create safe space, etc. We also had a presentation by an initiative founded by our students. It's called Hertie. And this was a panel during the Welcome Week, and it was called Looking Back to Inform Today, the anti-Semitic expropriation during the Nazi time that led to Hertie, which was well received, because when I asked the question during the Welcome Week, how many of you have heard of Hertie or do know what Hertie actually is? Out of over 400 students, 5 raised their hand. And it was kind of shocking to me. If you enroll in a school that has a rather particular name, you kind of want to know, where does this come from? What's the history here? But yeah, so we try to educate students here. And we had a very interesting form at my campus talks, which was a collaboration with the Zeit newspaper. I don't know, maybe if there are German people in the audience. The Zeit is one of the biggest newspapers in Germany. And it was, the title of the event was Navigate Difficult Dialogues, Conversations on the Middle East Conflict. And what happened, we had a very quick survey about each attendee's position on the conflict. And then with the computer software, we matched those who had the most opposing positions. So you had to sit together with someone who has a totally different view than you do, and you had to have a conversation for, I think we had 45 minutes. And it was very well received and very fruitful. Okay, maybe really quick about I'm almost done, about the workshop we did. That was the mandatory workshop during the Welcome Week. It was a 5-hour workshop, and the students were shocked and they really hated us for it, I think. And when they heard it's going to be 5 hours, but the time flew by. And it was very well received. The challenge for us was we had no budget. We had to do this for 450 students with no budget. And luckily, we had an intercultural trainer within my team. And we all had a lot of ideas, and we knew what we want to achieve with that workshop, which helped. We asked 12 of our staff members and colleagues to conduct the workshops, which was also a risk because also the trainers didn't really feel comfortable at the start to do this. So it was really an experiment, but it worked out very well. In total, we had 24 workshops for a maximum of 15 participants. And the content was mainly intercultural training, like I said. So we did something on shared identities, the diversity wheel, the iceberg model, and culture shock. We did a part mainly about the code of conduct and DEI, so the complaints and grievance procedure. We did a lot about communication concepts, 4 sides of a message, like you probably all know, Schulz von Thun, and word speak, and introduction of communication conflict, what to discuss and not discuss, and self-care and emotional regulations. So what to discuss and not to discuss is a positioning triangle, and it's my last slide. But the students liked that the most, and it was the most eye-opening to students. So since sometimes it's really difficult if you hear a really disturbing remark or someone is voicing an opinion you do not agree with, I think we all know how difficult this mind game that's going on. Am I going to engage in that discussion or should I not? Should I say something? Should I not? And I think this positioning triangle really helps to make that decision quickly. So there's always a third option besides to discuss or not to discuss. It's to position yourself. So even if maybe someone else is insulted or I don't know, you could always position yourself that you do not agree. So maybe you want to position yourself if you want to protect other people who are affected, or if you want to contradict an illegal or inhumane position, or if you want to regain control. And I think it's a good way in between. Sometimes it's not the right time and place to start a big discussion. Sometimes you know you're not going to convince or the other person, or it's not going to be really a fruitful discussion. So yeah, I just wanted to show that because I think those practical things are usually those that are most interesting in our profession. So yeah, this brings me to my last slide. The perception, what have we learned? So in general, I think we did our very best, giving the circumstances, the budget, etc. we had. So I think we did good. Maybe we didn't reach everyone on campus, and maybe it's not the same community and campus we had before COVID, but I think that's okay. The world and we are evolving, and I just think we have to find ways to meet each other at least halfway to stay in the discussion. There's a lot of room for improvement, especially also for our workshops, which we are going to continue this Welcome Week. And I think I personally want to do more about safe space, because that's what I see for our school at the moment is the biggest problem, that certain students do not feel safe being with other students or feeling safe enough to speak up. And I would like to tackle that. And And personally, I think we have to encourage students to be kind. I think this is all we can do in these times. Be kind to each other, because this is the most inexpensive power we're having as human beings. And yeah, I hope you found something within my presentation, and I'm very much interested to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Now, if anyone has any questions, feel free to give them at this moment. Thank you. I thought that it was very, you had first of all, I can tell that you care about your job and your students very much. And it was nice to hear about what challenges you had and strategies and how everything went and what results you found and what were the attitudes towards the solutions. So yeah, it was very interesting. Thank you. I will send you a feedback link after the presentation. So if you have any questions later on, or if you're watching the recording now, then you might be able to ask later as well. But thank you, Judith. Now, if there's nothing to ask at the moment, we can continue to Karin and Jolanda's presentation. Are you able to share your screen?
Yep. Yes, we're going to share our screen.
Great.
Yep.
Good. Perfect.
Je hebt hem op heel scherm. Okay, thank you for inviting us here. We will tell something about our school and the statistics in the Netherlands. First, I will introduce our school and ourselves. Then I will tell you about some Dutch statistics on well-being of our students, or many youngsters in the Netherlands. And then Karin will continue with the experience at our school, GLR, Grafisch Lyceum Rotterdam.
Yeah.
GLR is one of the biggest schools in the Netherlands for the media industry. We have about 44,500 students from 12 years till about 22 years old, and 450 staff members. 500 students at pre-vocational school, which is the building on the photo you see on the right, and approximately 4,000 students at our vocational school, and that is where Karin and I work. And we prepare our students for a future careers in media, design, and technology industry. This is me. I teach for 28 years here at this school. Member of innovation team teaching and learning that started this year. And I am responsible for the study program of editorial officer. And my students learn to tell stories in text, image, and sound. Podcast, for example. So they will do social media for companies, or everything on the website for companies. And then I have my colleague here, Karin.
Yeah, I'm already a teacher for a very long time in different tasks. And I'm also a member of the Health and Wellbeing Innovation Group. And I'm mainly teaching now media designers. And we're going to tell you a story about our school from the perspective of teachers.
So, some facts about well-being among young people in the Netherlands. Mental well-being in the Netherlands. You see here, before COVID, they felt, well, about 72, they gave their lives a 7.2. We could say that. It is measured on 5 different questions, which are asked 4 times a year on many young people. And we see that decreased a lot in March 22, when we were 21, when we were at home for a long time. No, 22. Yeah, we were teaching from our homes online, so young people didn't meet, or not as much as before that. And from summer 22, we went back to school again. And then we see that it is getting a bit better, but not at the level of before COVID. Then we see how they feel about their health, the young people. Most people feel okay. 85% says their health is okay, and that's quite a steady line. And this is a question if they are happy. 82% feels more or less happy. And also this is quite steady through the years. There is a big difference. 93% says they are happy in their spare time. And only 63% is happy at school. So there is a big difference in those statistics. They are not happy and not that happy at school, we can conclude. Did they look for help when they did not feel happy? About 84% looks for help. Some did look for help but didn't find it. Some looked for help but it was not enough or not the right help. And some looked for help and found the right help. That's the highest score. So many people who look for help find good help. And a certain percentage, not a big percentage, is not looking at help at all. The worrying fact is that there are many more young people who are looking for help and tell their doctor they have thoughts of suicide. That is rather high. What we hear from students is that they feel stressed. If they don't feel well, they very often mentioned it is caused by stress. And that is what we see here in 21. Only 30%, a bit more, had felt stress, and then it rose, and it is still higher than before COVID. And where does this stress come from? What we hear from our students is very often that they feel a big pressure to perform, and which causes the pressure to perform is by far from themselves. They think they have to perform, well. Then they feel teachers and society expects a lot of them. Parents, social media, and friends are mentioned here that cause stress. stress of performing. And here are some figures about some statistics about our school. And that is the ask for the request for mental support. When students come to our school, they have an intake. And if they tell they have certain problems, they get an extra special intake. So we see here in school year 2021, there were 97 people who told they needed this special intake. Then the year after that, 215 students told us they had some worries and they needed this special intake. And it is still quite high, but slowly decreasing. Then we have the support our school gives to the students, and there is the regular support. So that is what the mentor does, the teacher who has the class very often, but the mentor. And we see this support is a bit decreasing. Also, the individual support plan is, well, we see 87, so that is the students who need more care during their study. It is also, well, this last year it is 63, but before it is quite high. But during the study, that is decanaat, the dean, or this is the right study for me, they are helped with that. These numbers are quite high. It is last year 263 people needed during their study some sort of help. And they doubted, is this the right study for me? And things like that. So you would think it is not increasing, but that is not what we experience. We have a lot of students with questions. So that is the part Karin will continue.
Okay, so if you have noticed that the results in national results are getting better, it looks like it's getting better, but if we're looking at what we as teachers are experiencing, that is not the case. Every year I hear teachers telling me like it's exploding in class. So every time we have more mental health issues. And we are wondering what's the reason for these explosions of extra support that students need. So we are wondering, is Gen Z a generation that is more prone to interacting about their mental health? Is it something they articulate more often? And are they maybe more perfectionistic, their approach to life? They have a more perfectionistic approach to life, the pressure to perform very, very good. Is that a question? Is that the point? So we would like to know from you, maybe you can react in the chat. Is it something you recognize in your school, in your country? You think that might be the question? For us, that's a question. We have another problem in Holland, that our mental health care is really overloaded. That means if we have a student that needs mental health care outside of the school, it'll take at least half a year or more before the student is attained, even for an intake. So, one question also is the burned out mental health care using the school as their extended waiting room? Because when they're in school, we need to give them some help. And yeah, that's what we're trying to do. And maybe that is something also what you recognize in your country or in your school. I'm very curious to know. Yeah, and also a question we have as teachers is this mental health problem with our students, especially a problem from our school, because our school is well known for their very open culture and for their well-established support system. So are we like a magnet for students who are really needing support and maybe wondering if they get that support in another vocational school? So these are our questions about the mental health that is exploding in our school. We have an inclusive educational policy at the GLR. This is in Dutch, so I'm not going to stay with this slide a very long time, but we have primary care, the basic support in the learning environment, the mentor, the student coach, the student coordinator, and the learning and career coach. The secondary care is our support and advice office. And we have there the school social workers, psychologists, the coordinator, inclusive educational policy. And if we need extra help, our students can go there. And then there's the tertiary care, and that is the external care. And sometimes we have as primary care or secondary care also contact with this external mental health care. What is the GLR doing? So, like my colleague already said, we have a special intake when starting year 1 for students who already come with special needs. And after that, they get if they had the intake, there's going to be an individual support plan, and they were checked during the year they are here in school by our advice and support office. We have all the support by social workers and psychologists when the students need that. It starts all starts with the teachers and the very committed mentoring we do. So we have a complete mentor program, and mentors getting a lot of schooling during the years they are mentor. We have also the student coordinator and student coaches. As a mentor, if we think a student needs extra care or the problem is too big to handle, we can approach the student coordinator. Or when we think one of our students needs very intense planning support, we can also ask the student coaches to do that with them. The student coordinator is like a filter. We cannot send ourselves, like mentor, send our students immediately to the support and advice office. We have to talk with the student coordinator first, and we make a plan. What is possible? What can we do ourselves? And after that, if our conclusion is that these students really has a problem that is a big problem we cannot solve, we are asking the advice and support office to help us with this. But also our advice and support office is overloaded with students with mental health problems. What we did as a GLR during these last years, we had a sport program in our school where they could choose skiing, sailing, fitness, football. But a few years ago, we started with mental health modules. So they can also choose for modules where they learn to sleep better, control their anxiety, breathing classes, ADHD classes, and yoga. We have team-based meetings about different mental health issues for employees, about mourning, for instance, deal with aggression, trans and LGBTQI, etc. Issues. We have, I mentioned it already, regular training sessions for employees about mental health problems and how to have a good communication with our students. And in the week before we start with our year, our special needs students, they are invited to come for an orientation week before the school starts, so they can already get to know the school a bit before they start. Our sport and mental health group is doing a lifestyle survey, mainly about food, sports, living, the way they should live, smoking, drinking, things like that. And we have a promo at this moment, a sensory regulation lab, where our students can see if they're overstimulated or even understimulated. We have the photo here in the slide. There are many things that can overstimulate you when you're in school. Too much noise or certain noises, sometimes smells or material, what is really overstimulating you. And this is a stimulation lab where you can see what is actually triggering you. We have a personal finance program for our students, preventing our students to make debts, especially nowadays with Klarna and all the special programs. They can buy things and not pay immediately. And also special events, so they can make and try to make their own budget. So budgeting is a thing we're trying to do, so they're not going to make debts. We would like to share best practices. So we would like to know, what is your school doing regarding to mental health and well-being for students? And what are your experiences with the chatbot? Because we are thinking about trying, maybe do a tryout with the chatbot to see if we can make life and study easier for our students. We would really like to know. Maybe you can leave some comments in the chat. And this was our presentation. And we really would like to hear from you and hear what your solutions and your problems are. We can only do that in the chat. So I have to change something in my... Yeah, I have to do something here. We'll see.
Je kan hem even kleiner maken.
Yeah,
Dat kan ook.
there we are again.
Even stoppen.
Waar?
Oh, hij is al gestopt.
Yeah. I think we shared already.
Yeah.
So maybe if you have some comments, questions in the chat, we really would like to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the great presentation. We can wait a bit, so if anyone is typing, so that we can see.
I would really like to, I'm very curious if people recognize the Gen Z thing. So I would really like to hear if that is something you have in your school too. Or maybe it's not a Gen Z thing at all.
Yes, it's a nice opportunity to share between different countries as well, if there's any differences.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, it was especially interesting to see the data that you shared, and the statistics and the solutions as well. Great presentation, thank you. have your what's your students' feedback on the programs that you have? You had many programs. Is there something that is more popular than the others, or something that is received really well?
Oh, the mental health modules, huh?
They
Yeah.
are popular.
They're popular. Yeah.
Okay, great.
And we notice that they depend a lot more on their mentor with all kinds of questions. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that's
good
good,
to have.
but that's the difficult thing is that in the statistics you would feel the problem is not growing, but in the classroom the problem is growing.
It's growing.
Yeah.
Well, if people don't want to talk in the chat, they
Yep.
can also, maybe we can put our email address or something when they want to contact. Or is that a thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can do that, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I will also send to the chat box. I will send the feedback link. I will also send it to everyone's email when I send the recording. But if you have the time and it's all fresh on your mind, you can do that here. And good. And if you can be contacted, you feel free to put your email address as well. But
I bet you will.
from my behalf, thank you very much for everyone who participated and our great speakers. Thank you for your time and your efforts. And this was very inspiring and very important as well.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Verlaten.
Oh, daar is iemand